Hey students, so far we've looked at rocks breaking down through chemical and physical weathering. This is really just the beginning of the story. With all of these fragments of broken rocks and sediments, they don't stay put. They actually erode. Erosion is the transportation of sediments produced from weathered rocks. These broken down rocks are moved by different agents of erosion. Gravity, running water, wind, and glaciers all transport this material from high elevation to low elevation. Eventually, a river, for example, runs out of steam when it hits a large body of water. It doesn't have the same energy because it loses its velocity, so it can no longer carry the material, the sediments it was transporting. When it hits a lake or an ocean, it lets go of it in this new spot. We call this process deposition. Deposition is the process by which sediments are released, settled from, or dropped from an erosional system. As I said, there are four erosional systems, or agents of erosion, four ways in which material and sediment moves across planet Earth. Gravity, running water or rivers, wind, and glaciers. Today we're going to look at gravity. Gravity is the primary force behind all of these agents of erosion. Rivers wouldn't move if it weren't for gravity. Same with glaciers and wind, which carries very fine particles of clay, sand, silt, eventually fall out of the atmosphere because of gravity. Sometimes gravity operates on its own, however, and it can produce some pretty spectacular events, dangerous events. Gravitational erosion is typically referred to as mass movements, as large materials or large masses of rock and debris moves from high elevation to low elevation. We have different types of mass movements. Rock falls, where perhaps frost action breaks apart a rock at the top of a cliff and it falls to the bottom of the cliff. Landslides, where blocks of rock slide downhill. Mudslide, where supersaturated soils actually flow downhill. And slumping, where saturated soils slump along a curved surface. Gravity and gravitational erosion is going to be influenced by a variety of factors. The steepness of slope, the gradient. Steeper slopes are going to have a greater gravitational pull and move material downhill. After large rain events, our soils can become super saturated or filled with water. When this happens, it can destabilize the soils and cause the soils to flow like a mud flow or a mudslide. Certain rock types are more susceptible to mass movements than others, especially if those rocks have a lot of cracks and fissures in steep environments. We know gravity has pulled material downhill because there's a lot of evidence at the base of cliffs. When I go rock climbing to a cliff, I usually have to climb over these talus cones to get there. These talus cones are the remnants of gravitational erosion, where rock material has fallen from high elevation and smashed at the bottom of the cliff, where it accumulates in these big piles of sharp, angular rock. Again, we call these talus cones, and we can see that it's sharp and angular because it hasn't been abraded, because it hasn't been transported by a river or by wind. It simply broke off the cliff and smashed into a lot of sharp, angular pieces accumulating in a large mound. We're going to look at the other agents of erosion in the near future. That's it for today. Have a good day.